Hey guys, it's John back with another anti-guru video, and one with a bit of a difference today because I'm taking on a guru who, as always, shall remain nameless, but has been, I'm going to use the word, extolling the benefits of the Class R General Permitted Development Order. Now, I say extolling the benefits simply because it's very much been a case of using this right to get development that it's not designed to get. And I think the best way of me explaining this is actually to show you. And so in order to show you, I'm using our good buddies at Zoom. Thank you very much, Zoom, for this facility to record my screen so I can show you what I mean, because I've had discussions with others about Class R and I've been asked specifically about it. You know, what is this gold rush with Class R development? What is going on? Why is Class R so good? And I think the simple answer to the question is, fine, let me show you. Let me show you what Class R actually does and kind of dispel some of the myth aside from the fact that it isn't designed to do what it's being used for, or to force the planning system to do something it doesn't want to do. So I'm going to share my screen. I've got Class R all loaded. For those of you worried about GDPR, it's the only thing on my screen, and I'm sure my brother, who is a comic of hilarious proportions, will probably comment on this video saying, oh, GDPR breach. I've checked that. I'm looking at a public screen and a public part of the internet specifically. But let me just share my screen here and show you what I mean. So you should now be seeing, hopefully, Class R of Part 3 of Schedule 2 of the General Permitted Development Order, England, 2015. Now, the reason why I'm doing it this way is because I wanted to break down this permitted development right. The only way to break the myth is by showing you the right itself and what it actually does. So, Class R is the agricultural buildings to a flexible commercial use. Now, you note, firstly, it says flexible commercial use. It is not a flexible residential use. It is a flexible commercial use. And that's really vitally important. Class R was brought in order to provide farms with diversification options, because it was at a time that farms were struggling to diversified. They were development in the countryside, that was fine, but councils were pinning back on diversification, making it more difficult. So Class R was brought in order to provide farm diversification. Do you excuse the wee slurp there of a zesty drink? It's necessary. So what is permitted? Development consisting of a change of use, so it's not extensions or alterations, a change of use of any building and any land within its curtilage from a use as an agricultural building to a flexible use falling within A1, shop, A2, A3, B1, B8, C1, or D2. Okay, those are very specific use classes there. So just go through it and see if there's anything residential. No, don't see anything residential in any of that. A1, A2, A3 being retail uses, B1, B8 being commercial, office or storage uses, C1 being hotels, D2 being assembly and leisure. So if you're a residential occupier, then none of what Class R provides for will get you where you want to be. It's very much a case of this is about commercial diversification, not residential diversification. That's what Class Q is for. And then we go to the development not permitted. So scroll down a little bit. I'll get to the conditions in a minute. Development is not permitted by Class R if you didn't have an agricultural building on an agricultural unit being an agricultural business, on the 3rd of July 2012. The building was not in use as agricultural prior to that date. And in the case of a building brought into use after the 3rd of July 2012, then you have to wait 10 years before the Class R use kicks in. So you can't build a building today and then get Class R to work for you. You would have to wait 10 years. Now, because this is a permanent permitted development right, that 10-year prescription is in there. So it does mean you can build and wait, and you'll be doing a Class R development in 2030. Or you can calculate the 10-year period. The cumulative floor space of buildings, plural, which have changed use under Class R within an established agricultural unit exceeds 500 square metres. What that means, ladies and gentlemen, is you cannot convert every barn on the farm because you will hit the maximum 500 square metre threshold just in the same way as Class Q has a maximum 500 square metre threshold. The B category requires you to add up all of the cumulative space. Military explosive storage area takes out certain areas of the country like Barrow-in-Furness, Aldermaston in Berkshire, etc. Safety hazard area takes out areas surrounding things like Heathrow Airport and anything that has the propensity to go bang. Listed building or scheduled ancient monument is obvious. I'm going to come down to the conditions because these are vitally important to understand. Now, condition A specifies that once you've changed use under Class R, right, you may change use again to any other of the uses within Class R. That's because this is a flexible change of use. All right, it allows for you to flex between uses. B is vitally important. For the purposes of the use classes order and this order, after a site has changed use under Class R, the site is to be treated as a whole as having a sui generis use. Okay? The important part of B is it never creates a true use. You never get A1 in order to use your Class G rights. You never get A2 in order to use your Class G rights. You never get B1A in the vain hope that you're going to get office to resi at some point in time, because B is specific. You never get to the end use. You have a sui generis use. And sui generis uses do not have the right to go to residential after the effect, with the exception of laundrette. And you're not creating a laundrette. That's not one of the uses prescribed. Even then, laundrette has a time code on it. Planning permissions granted by Class G of Part 7, that's extensions to the building, apply subject to curtilage being modified and office building being modified. Because remember, office is a true use, B1A, and in order to get everything to stack, the extensions and alterations to office had to be modified in order to reflect a sui generis office. That's because, again, you don't get a true use. Anyone postulating that you get a true use would have to be incorrect, because R2B confirms that you never get a true use. R3 specifies that if you're converting more than 150 square meters, then you must make a prior approval application. That's what R3 does. R3 says at A, where the cumulative floor space of buildings and buildings which are change use under Class R does not exceed 150 square meters, you've got to provide the date to which the site will be used, the nature of the use, and a plan indicating the buildings. Where you exceed 150 square meters, you've got to do a prior approval. Okay, so in both cases, you actually have to tell the council. R31A says if you're under 150 square meters, you've got to give them some very basic information, just provide some information, but it's a condition. So you have to have done that before you change the use. R31B says it's a prior approval if you exceed 150 square meters. It's that detailed. And the reason why these are in here is to give the council the opportunity to make sure you're not telling a porky, to make sure you're actually abiding by the conditions in Class R. You can't just throw one in. R32 gives you a 3-year date after the prior approval to execute. R33 gives you, I'm just skimming it, 3 years to start again for some reason. I don't know why that's there, to be fair. It could all be encompassed in R32. R34, associated operational development means other operations in relation to the same building or land which are reasonably necessary. Operational development can be things like windows, doors, etc., but I think that's a bit vague for me to be 100% comfortable on R34. And reading R33 again, what that is talking about is where you make an application. So I am quite correct in my first assertion. There is no ability to do associated operational development as a straight part of the prior approval. You have to apply for it. R33 says that you'll carry it out at the same time within the period of 3 years. R34 says that it has to be reasonably necessary in order for the new use of the land against Class R. So in reality, this isn't as straightforward as those gurus postulating it as a new gold rush are making out. And then finally, for the interpretation, in order to really balance out this whole argument about it creating true uses or not, Class R flexible use means use of the building or any land falling within it for the list of uses specifically in Class R. What that's basically saying is, look, you cannot deviate from the flight plan. You're getting a flexible use, and because it's a sui generis use, you're losing any ability to then change use again. So you can't go from B1 to something else without a planning permission. That is Class R in a nutshell. So to summarize, if I may, there has been a lot of postulation here about Class R being used to subtly or surreptitiously create, for example, serviced accommodation, for example, dwellings. There's been postulation that you could somehow outfox a council and say, well, it's an A1 use and therefore I've got my G rights. It doesn't do that. Importantly, what it does, and please don't fall into this trap, is create a sui generis use. And sui generis uses are such that you end up with a non-true use. You end up with a use that simply does not carry any forward rights. This has been an anti-guru. I hope that helps you. If you like this video, please hit the like button, subscribe. You'll be able to catch up with the very next one. I've been John McDermott from the Beach Hut. Normal service will be resumed on my next video where we go back to our normal filming technique. I've just used Zoom for the purpose of this because I wanted to take you through that particular permitted development right in order to dispel some of the myths surrounding that right. I hope you have a fantastic day. Like, subscribe, comment below. See you on the next one.